Hello, welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak, and tonight, Ampem Dakwa have triumphed in the WAFU Zone B qualifiers, securing both the regional title and a coveted spot in the Women's Champions League, slated for next month. And the team defeated Delta Queens of Nigeria 1-0 in the final of the game of the WAFU Zone B qualifiers game in Benin City to end that slot in the Women's Champions League. This comes after they narrowly missed out on qualifying for the same tournament last year, finishing runners-up in the qualifiers following a loss to Nigeria's Bayelsa Queens in the final. Here's a highlight of that game between Ampem Dakwa ladies and their counterpart, Delta Queens.
You recall the last test final to Nigeria side, Bayelsa Queens. And they've won it right here in Benin. At the expense of Nigeria champions, Delta Queens of Asaba. Running it ended in favor of Ampem Dakwa ladies of Ghana.
Or they become the second Ghanaian club to earn qualification for the Women's Champions League over there after Razak's ladies achieved the same feat in the inaugural edition in 2020-21. Now, the 2023 CAF Women's Champions League will be played in Ivory Coast between Sunday 5th to 19th November 2023. Now, to the Black Stars, where forward Abdul Fattah Isahaku has joined Leicester City on a season-long loan from Portuguese side Sporting CP. Now, Isahaku will link up with Enzo Maresca's squad for the 2023 Sky Bet Championship season, where Leicester will be aiming to quickly return to the English Premier League. Now, after switching from Sporting to England, Abdul Fattah Isahaku spoke to the class media and he said joining Leicester City was his. Now, the 2023 Champions League group stage draw has been held and it will see Ghanaian duo Thomas Partey and Salis Abdul Samed square off in the group stage, where Arsenal and RC Lens have been drawn. Now, Joy Sports, Daniel Cranton joins me via Zoom to bring us up to speed on the full results as far as the draw is concerned. Daniel, it was a pretty decent evening of Champions League draw. You know, finally we are having the Champions League return on our screens. But just take us through the draw and the group stage, just in terms of the groupings that unfolded, earlier today.
Yeah, first of all, what you mentioned from a Ghanaian point of view, the fact that Salis and Partey have been drawn against each other is really nice to see. I'm not too sure Salis will be available for match day 1. We know he had an injury last week, which will cause him to miss the Black Stars or the upcoming Black Stars squad. But all the same, Salis versus Partey will obviously bring smiles to the faces of Ghanaians. Partey is not new to this terrain during his time at Atletico Madrid, but for Arsenal fans, it's been a long 7-year wait, and they are finally back. And it's nice to see that they are back in the Champions League. But for me, the group that stands out for me is obviously Group F. It is such a difficult group, and for football lovers, it's really remarkable that every single game in that group will be one to watch. You have Newcastle, AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund, and PSG. Whichever way you flip the switch, it's going to serve up a very interesting encounter. And these are teams that are all on form. It's a mixture of traditional teams. You have AC Milan in there, Newcastle in there, a very traditional team, a team that has come into money and are doing pretty well in recent times. Borussia Dortmund, very exciting team to watch. And then also PSG with their new head coach and the new players that they've brought in is obviously going to serve up something very interesting. For just a pointer, the fact that Luis Enrique is now in charge of PSG. Remember that he won the Champions League with Barcelona back in 2015 when he had the famous MSN as his front three. This time around, you have Mbappe, you have Dembele, and it looks like Kolomwani may join PSG. So that will be another very interesting front three that will battle against the rest of these teams. But all in all, I think it's outside this group. I think it's pretty straightforward. You look at the group with Manchester City, and you ask yourself, how come they keep on getting favorable groups every single time? The defending champions have to battle with RB Leipzig, who they went past quite easily in the knockout round last season. Red Star Belgrade. So Osman Bukhari will come up against Erling Haaland. It's quite interesting for Ghanaian. Young boys are also in that group. And you look at Barcelona, FC Porto, Shakhtar, and then Royal Antwerp. You don't expect Barcelona to have a tough time navigating that group. Remember that last year's Champions League ended in disappointment for Barcelona. They were in a very, very tough group with Bayern Munich and Inter Milan in that group. This time around, with Shakhtar, Royal Antwerp, and FC Porto, you really don't think that these guys will give Barca a hard time. Manchester United will also have to face Harry Kane. That is Man United.
I mean, Manchester United versus Bayern Munich. That's definitely one game that people were looking forward to. You know, they're already pitching Erik ten Hag. You know, against Thomas Tuchel, and of course Harry Kane returning to England. Interesting, pairing there we got.
Yeah, very interesting pairing. It is a traditional Champions League encounter. Remember, a repeat of the '99 final, that famous final that won Man United the Champions League, 2 goals in the last minute. So people who know the Champions League will always remember this tie. And this tie has a history and a place in the hearts of Champions League fans. So the fact that we're going to be served up 2 encounters, one at the Allianz Arena, one at Old Trafford, is very interesting to watch. And then Galatasaray also back in the Champions League, traditional Turkish team. As to whether they'll be able to give the top 2 a proper competition, I doubt it, but we wait to see what will happen there. But you expect Bayern Munich and Man United to progress from Group A. Real Madrid are in I would say, favorable group. The traditional owners of the UEFA Champions League, aside Napoli, you don't really see Braga and Union Berlin giving them a tough time. Union Berlin is their first time in the Champions League. Braga don't necessarily always make the Champions League. Braga are usually in the Europa League, Conference League. This time they've made the jump to the Champions League. So you just feel that experience deficit will cost the 2 teams at the bottom there in Braga and Union Berlin. You expect Napoli and Real Madrid to sail through pretty easily. For us now, I mentioned earlier, yes, aside the fact that it's Partey versus Salis in Lens and Arsenal, you also have PSV in there, a team that we've waited for at the Champions League scene for quite a while. They are back. Sevilla, the owners of the UEFA Europa League. You really, I think if Arsenal wanted a welcome back to the Champions League, this is a sort of draw that they wanted, something favorable to help them make it through to the knockout round. So I would say for me, Group B, Arsenal are my prime favorites to finish top of the group.
Interesting. Well, but I mean, Daniel, beyond the groupings, some awards also did take place. Bring us up to speed on those.
Yeah, we know that Erling Haaland won the big award. It's much deserved. If you look at what he did the entirety of last season, I was very surprised at the top 3 in terms of the nominees. Interesting to know that the UEFA Champions League Player of the Season in Rodri missed out on the top 3 of the UEFA Men's Player of the Year. Funny enough, Rodri also ended up winning the UEFA Nations League. I don't think Messi should have been in the top 3, but he was in there. But all in all, justice has been served. Erling Haaland was head and shoulders above his peers last season. You don't break a long-standing Premier League record, score 36 goals in a Premier League season. You don't crash Champions League records like what he did last season in the 5 goals in one game, ending up with 12, 13 Champions League goals throughout the season. You can't win a treble, winning the Premier League, the most difficult league to win, the Champions League and then the FA Cup, and not run away with this title. So for me, much deserves for Erling Haaland. And I think it was pretty straightforward. If you watched football last season, or the duration of which this award comes into context, then you know that Haaland clearly deserved to win.
Yeah, and then there is Pep Guardiola also picked up, the UEFA Coach of the Year. I mean, I think there's no doubt. If you make the same case for Erling Haaland, Pep Guardiola haven't won the treble also. Yeah. There's just no questions about the fact that he completely deserves this.
Yeah, by far. Winning the Premier League, the Champions League, FA Cup. Remember, this was his 3rd Premier League title in a row. Manchester City were just absolutely brilliant. And to put things into context, it is extremely difficult to win the Champions League with teams that are not traditional in that sense. This is Manchester City's first ever Champions League title. People used to use that against them, the fact that they didn't have the pedigree in this competition. Pep Guardiola turned this team into a winning machine, has gained them respect, and finally won the Champions League with them. If there was a higher award he could win, I'm sure they would have given it to him, but this is the highest he can win in the UEFA Men's Coach of the Year. So much deserved for Pep Guardiola.
Well, great. Daniel Cranston, thanks so much for making time to join us tonight. And that's Daniel Cranston with the Joy Sports Desk. But a few other awards did take place. England's women's national team coach, Sarah Wegman, also picked up the Women's Coach of the Year, and a few other accolades also for the women's over there. But let's get to Germany now, because the Bundesliga match day 3 is coming up, beginning tomorrow with Dortmund's kick-starting the weekend fixtures, and DWTV's Chris Harrington joins us for some analysis, some preview to the weekend fixtures. Chris, good to have you again. And of course, is the game between Union Berlin and RB Leipzig. Leipzig did start the season having won the trophy. They defeated Bayern Munich to win the Super Cup. But Union Berlin themselves, over the last weekend, they were down by a man, but went ahead to defeat Darmstadt by 4-1. Absolutely impressive performance, and they are a team to watch. News coming in from the Ghana Football Association. Well, the deadline for the transfer window has been extended to the 8th of September. It was supposed to close tomorrow, the 1st of September, but the Ghana Football Association has since extended it to the 8th of September. Well, coming up also tomorrow at 8 p.m. is Joy Sports Transfer Countdown, and it's a global edition. We do this every year before the end of the transfer window. So it's going to be here 8 p.m. On Joy Prime and Joy News. You want to, and also will be on all our social media platforms. So you want to join us and the entire Joy Sports team for all the updates and analysis relative to the transfer window, and also which players will be moving on the final day of the transfer window. Well, that's all time will permit us tonight on Prime Sports. With me, Razak Musbah. We have so much more stories on myjoyonline.com/sports. Do have a lovely evening.